All right, welcome, StackRox open source community. This is the September community meeting. I'm Mike Foster, your community lead, along with Matthias Mettinger, my co-leader. And we have a packed day for you. 4.2 release is coming out next week, so we want to go through some of the updates for that, general open floor discussion, and of course, announcing a cloud service free trial. So I'm just going to get right into it. There's a 60-day free trial for ACS Cloud Service. That's the paid version. So if you ever want to evaluate StackRox, the open source, again, they're the same product. You just don't have to manage Central yourself. If you want to go and test it out before maybe deep diving into the open source community, welcome to do that. You, of course, get support with that too, even though we try to answer what we can in the Slack channel. We don't always get to it on time, which is why we have this session. So again, I dropped a link in the community notes if you want to check it out. Other than that, the other big news is 4.2 got moved a week. It was supposed to be yesterday. It got moved to next Monday. So Matthias is going to take us through all the notes, but ACS 4.2 next Monday. You want to give us the update and handing it over to you?
Yeah, so that's as with this update, one of the main reasons why we are usually not communicating fixed dates as opposed to just saying it will be out mid-September. Things can always happen, and we prioritize the stability of our product above holding dates. So engineering made the decision to move the 4.2 release 1 week back from the originally planned release date, but we are also shipping with a whole lot of features. So starting off with PostgreSQL. So this has been in the making for quite some time. We started with 4.0 with this one, and now we can actually announce the general availability for Central DB as well. So if you are using Postgre, you can actually bring your own database to run as CentralDB. And besides that, we also have changes to the vulnerability management workflow. So the vulnerability management is something that has been also in the rework for quite some time now. And if I remember correctly, what we do amongst other small changes is you can use new vulnerability management policy criteria. So for example, you can search for, is this CVE, are there CVEs that are fixable that we found in our product? So there's new criteria to filter vulnerability management data with. The next big thing for general availability is RHCOS node scanning. So if you run StackRox or ACS on OpenShift or any node that runs Red Hat CoreOS, we will be able to completely analyze all the installed packages and also provide CVE information about the node itself. And speaking of maybe more secure things, ACS is now supported on OCP running in FIPS mode. And with that said, I think Foster, you can, I'm not entirely sure on the FIPS mode, if you want to go and enlighten us a little bit on that one.
Oh, really throwing me under the bus here. It stands for, it's like Federal Information Processing Standard. Thank you. Yes, it's one Google search away. It's a government standard. OCP has been certified for this, and so ACS is as well. There's like certain levels of security. So like level 1 is you do a certain amount of processes, and you go all the way up to level 4. So if you're fully certified in FIPS, that means you're at the highest level. I'll put a link in the document for people who want to find out more as well. But just in general, just getting more secure. Hey, Kong, thanks for joining. Another one, I'll lead you off with a process listening on ports. It's a very exciting feature that's getting an update. So this originally came out in 4.1, correct?
Yes.
And then the updates, what's the update in 4.2?
The update is we now have a menu in our web interface to actually provide the information. So we have, yeah, right. So up until now, the information that which listening endpoints, deployment or container or pod uses was only accessible through the API, but now we also have a web UI entry, which is called listening endpoints. So keep an eye out in the web UI for the listening endpoints menu or submenu. It will list you all the ports that the deployment or pod is actually using. And so it's not only about which ones it defines, but it is actually runtime collected information on which ports connections happened. And speaking of which, collection of this information is actually done through multiple different ways by our collector. And one of the next GA announcements is Core BPF. So one of our newest and most flexible collection method for general information to this date is now generally available for all x86 64 and S390X architectures. That one is a tongue twister every single time for me.
Yeah, and for context, it's compile once, run everywhere BBPF modules. So this alleviates engineering effort. It also alleviates the amount of support that we can give to the various nodes and customers out there. And so that's coming out for the first time in 4.2. Now,
correct.
So kernel modules got deprecated with 4.0. Core BPF, is that going to be the standard that we recommend customers and users to use moving forward?
Correct. Going forward with this GA announcement, the Core BPF collection method is the default selection and is our recommendation how users and customers should collect data in their clusters.
Very
and
cool.
Speaking of actually general clusters and workloads, we have our StackRox scanner, which is able to scan your workloads for security flaws and possible fixes. And we also expanded its capabilities. So the scanner is now able to scan Ubuntu 23.04 and 0.10, as well as Debian 12 and Alpine 3.18. So any workloads you use that are based on these container OSs will receive more and additional information about vulnerabilities from now on.
And when we specify workloads, because we do host scanning now with RHCOS, this is container operating systems, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Always worth pointing out the two, because now there's an extra layer we have to mention.
Yeah, and honestly, the node scanning is exciting, and I'm very much looking forward to hopefully expand the scanning capabilities to more node OSs as well. But for now, we are primarily focused on workload OSs, so container OSs, which means, for example, Ubuntu Minimal. And that said, we have one more announcement to make. And that might be a little bit one of the controversial ones, which is we will introduce with this release opt-out telemetry and usage data collection. And this has been in the past this has led to trouble for open source projects in the past. So we actually tried to make this in a sensible manner. And also, we don't want to basically sell any user data or anything like that. So to put that out of the way first, we are not collecting user data to sell it or to process it by third parties or sell it to third parties. We are collecting usage data and telemetry data because we as engineers actually have trouble getting feedback, basically, because Red Hat is a very big organization, and getting direct feedback from customers and users is a little bit harder the bigger the organization is. So what we will do is we will collect information, general telemetry about your deployments. This includes open source deployments of StackRox as well as commercial deployments of ACS. And what we actually collect is we just want to know on which UI screen you spend how much time, which integrations you use, and the number of connected clusters. So basically general settings of ACS and general statistics of ACS. This also includes error and crash reports when ACS doesn't work as intended. And what this does is this actually allows us to prioritize the parts of the features and parts of the platform that are most commonly used by our users and customers out there. And
also, just to jump in here, the main purpose is to be proactive instead of reactive with customers. Instead of you
correct.
coming as a user onto the Slack channel in StackRox and saying, hey, I have this issue, we'll be able to see the crash data a lot easier. It gets sent to us. And it's one way that the open source community helps make the product better. And it allows you not to have to open up a Slack channel every time something went wrong, right? We can see that data. We can go in and actually understand it a little bit better instead of having to go back and forth in GitHub issues for 4 hours going back and forth, right? So it really is for the better of the product in just the usage case. That is the main goal. And again, being proactive in terms of what integrations we support, who's using what, allowing us to scale a lot better by seeing if somebody's using an open source cluster that's massive and they're having performance issues or something like that, we can get a better read on what's going on. That is the sole purpose of this. And again, Matthias nailed everything on the head. You can always opt out. It's just there. The only difference is it was always there. It's just enabled by default in the coming versions.
And what I also want to emphasize on is the data that we collect is completely anonymized. So we do not know who is running this cluster, what the namespaces are called, or your workloads or anything like that. We do not know at all about these things. In general, I have collected all the data that we collect, and I will pay. I'm pasting these in the meeting notes. And also in the meeting notes, I will be sharing the link to our documentation, how to actually opt out of data collection, and also the direct link to GitHub, to the piece of code where you can actually see what we collect. So we're not trying to hide anything. If you are interested in looking up what we collect, there is a link to the GitHub page. You can take a look and see for yourself what we collect and what we do with that data.
Sweet. And again, next meeting will be the second Tuesday next month. So if you have any questions, we'll address them there. Anything that comes up, feel free to drop it in the Slack channel as well. And there is going to be a what's new. So even though we just outlined all of the updates, Boaz, an ACS PM, and myself are going to clip it for you in about 8 to 10 minutes. It'll be on YouTube if you want to get the full rundown next Monday with the release notes. That'll be live for you again next Monday on the YouTube channel. On to the last point, general questions. So August seemed like a pretty quiet month. I only found 3 questions in the Slack channel. Some of them were answered, but I just wanted to bring them up here. Does StackRox support OPA Rego rules similar to NewVector supports OPA rules? I'm not familiar that NewVector does it. However, there is no support for OPA rules in ACS. You can still set up some sort of policy based off of ACS scans, like NewVector said in that article. So basically, NewVector was doing a scan and then initiating an OPA policy rule in Kubernetes based off if it like failed or passed, or depending on how vulnerable it is or not vulnerable, you can trigger specific rules. You can do that with ACS as well, just a little bit of hacking in your pipelines. Next one is Mike G. They have ACS running in GitLab pipelines using RoxCuddle to submit the scans to containers. How do I exclude moderate low findings from the output of scans? Using grep and regex feels like a bit of a hack. I know you got to answer. I don't believe that there is a way currently, Matthias, or anybody on the call, but that might be a good issue to raise.
So this is definitely more of a usability issue. So as far as I'm concerned I just checked right before this meeting. We do not have any capabilities to filter the findings that we have. So yes, grep with the regex feels like a hack, and it is, but until we actually implement any kind of filtering, I guess that's the way to go. And also, a
Real quick,
bit
there
of
there is one workaround though, isn't there? Because you could create a policy that highlights medium to high vulnerabilities, and then if that policy gets tripped based off of the build slash scan, you'll see the policy and the output of the policy's results, right? But you
that
won't get
is
all the
correct.
information of the scanning, I think is what they're going for. They want all the outputs of the high and critical ones.
Yes,
Okay.
and to be completely fair, ideally you would also at least look at low severity issues. I mean, yes, they are low severity, but in terms of security, as usual, if it's low hanging fruit, it's always a good idea to also investigate these and fix them. And I know that this is
For
kind of a
I,
cop out.
I think, yeah, I was going to say, I think for the security team, the developer team is probably the one where they're like, we just want to inform the
Yeah.
developers when there's something critical that is in their code. But Mike, look forward to more information. I might open up an issue, see if there's
Yeah.
something internal that's been opened, because I don't think that you're the first person to run into this. Last one, Oliver B had a syslog issue. Sometimes I see the error. Max message is 8096. Truncating receiver is using our syslog. It's not a problem if I raise max message size on our syslog, but my question is, does anyone know the max message size being produced by StackRox? That's a hefty technical question that I don't have the answer to.
I'm not entirely sure if we even have a max message size. There might be a technical limitation by the protocols and systems involved, but StackRox or ACS itself, depending on what kind of messages you get, for example, if you crawl all the vulnerability data or all the violations that we have found since the moment you started the product, the answer will be rather large. So I am not entirely sure if, besides technical limitations, we have a max message limit, but we
Yeah,
can look that up.
I'll follow up and see if we can get an answer from engineering. Last thing, open floor. I know there's two people on the call with us. Matthias and I were talking about starting a little demo project. So anybody in the open source community that wants to, even if it's 4.2, 4.3, after the release, before the release, if they want to demo a feature to the public, come to the open floor, give a quick demo of whatever you're working on. I'll cut it up, put it on YouTube as a feature, and that way we can showcase a little bit more about what ACS does and give you a chance to get your features / favorite features out there. So I'll be posting that in the Slack channel, again, open floor. And I think that's it.
Yeah. So, Jan, Mikhail, if you have any questions or want to demo something, now would be the chance to actually do so.
On the spot.
On the spot, throwing you folks under the bus.
We will take silence as a no, but again, I'm going to drop in the StackRox chat as well as the ACS engineering chat to see if anybody wants to take me up in the offer. I will cut you a great YouTube thumbnail and make you look great on YouTube. So again, if anybody wants to practice their StackRox demos, let me know. And other than that, we'll see you October 12th, I believe. I just want to check. October 10th. October 10th. We have Sunday on the 1st next month. So second Tuesday, October 10th, we'll be back with the community meeting after a successful 4.2 launch. Matthias, you want to take us away?
Sure. So thanks all for watching. I have been joined by Michael Foster, my wonderful co-chair. I'm Matthias Meidinger, signing off. So folks, as always, if you have any questions, feel free to open a GitHub issue, stop by in the Slack, ping us. We'll be there for you. Until next time, take care.
Take care, everyone.